Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a topic that's getting a lot of attention and deserves it. In the state of Utah, a new state-approved digital ID is in development that the state says is focused on privacy and security. But underneath the surface, many of us are asking, is this a harmless modernization or a slippery slope towards something far more concerning? According to a recent article by KUTV, Utah is looking to launch a verified digital identity system that residents could store in a digital wallet. The idea, instead of always carrying a plastic ID, you could use a credential endorsed by the state for things like airport security or accessing government services. State officials say you would control your identity, that it wouldn't track when you use it, and that it would be built with strong security and recovery safeguards. The law enabling this, SB 260, gives residents the right to a digital ID, but doesn't force them to participate. All of that sounds reasonable, even desirable in many ways. Less plastic, easier verification, protections against impersonation. But here's where the alarm bells start to ring. Because once you introduce state-endorsed digital IDs, you open up possibilities for tracking, for coercion, for centralized control. And that's where things get tricky for freedom. Let's talk about the threats. 1. Control and optionality. Utah says participation won't be mandatory, but optional systems frequently become de facto mandatory. If services favor the digital ID, you may feel compelled to use it. 2. Data centralization. Even if the system claims it won't log when credentials are used, the infrastructure exists to do so. Once such systems are in place, future policy changes can enable tracking or linking. 3. Erosion of anonymity and freedom. The more of our identity and actions are mediated by digital credentials, the more our behavior can be monitored, nudged, or restricted. What happens if access to services becomes conditional on using the digital ID? 4. Precedent setting. Utah may be early, but once one state builds this infrastructure, others can copy it, scale it, and add features. Today, optional digital ID. Tomorrow, required. And that's a concern when it comes to liberty. Now I want to take this one step further. Many believers and watchers of prophecy have long been talking about digital IDs, digital wallets, biometric credentials, and how they could tie into something far more spiritual and ominous, the so-called Mark of the Beast, mentioned in the book of Revelation in the Bible. Revelation 13:16-17 speaks of a mark that people must receive to buy or sell. Could this Utah digital ID be the beginning of a system that paves the way for a future where participation in commerce, society, or public services requires a credential? I believe it's possible. Here's how. In Revelation, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark." 13:16-17. If you imagine a future where your digital ID becomes the only way to access essential services, to travel, to work, to buy and sell, that aligns eerily with the prophecy language. The Utah model today claims optionality, but once infrastructure is built and normalized, it becomes easier for governments or private actors to step in and say, to participate, you must have this credential. At that point, the line between a convenient digital ID and a compulsory, possibly controlling credential starts to blur. And for those who believe the prophecy, that's precisely the kind of scenario that triggers alarm. I'm not saying Utah's initiative is the mark of the beast, but I am saying it could be the foundational step towards systems that, if unchecked, might lead to something resembling what the prophecy warns about. And if you value freedom, freedom of movement, freedom of privacy, freedom of choice, then now is the time to engage, to question, to stay informed, and to set boundaries. Here are some practical things you can do. Watch closely how Utah's digital ID system is designed. Will participation truly remain optional? Will there be viable alternatives? Ask questions about data governance. Who holds your credentials? Who has access? What happens if it's hacked? Ensure there's transparency and accountability in the system's rollout. Consider legislative safeguards, limits on tracking, use cases, third-party access, opt-out rights. Discuss broadly. As this technology spreads, let's talk about what kind of society we want, and whether we're comfortable with credentials tied to participation in everyday life. In summary, the state of Utah is pushing forward a digital ID system with laudable stated goals: security, control for the user, modernization. But we must also ask the deeper questions about liberty, privacy, and long-term implications. For many, this is more than a tech update. It's a stepping stone towards something more profound and potentially troubling. If you found this discussion useful, hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments your thoughts. Do you see this as innovation or intrusion? And are you concerned about the possible spiritual dimension of these systems? Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay informed and stay free.